Hi, everyone. It's Michelle with Life Story Financial, and I'm so excited today to interview transformational life coach Linda Galambos. We're going to talk about finding purpose in life after 50 when you're faced with your next life chapter. So, if you're struggling to find purpose in life after 50, Linda's words will probably sound familiar to you. It's actually why she decided to switch gears and become a life coach when she found herself in her 50s with an empty nest and no life purpose. That's why she's so passionate about guiding individuals, particularly women in midlife, to learn how to recreate their lives into something that they truly love. So thanks so much for joining me, Linda. I appreciate it.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Thanks, Michelle.
I think women, especially who have spent their careers and their lives very busy with work, or even if they're not working, so busy taking care of kids that when the kids suddenly fly the coop, they're left going, what now? So, to start with, why don't you tell me a little bit about your story when that happened to you?
Yeah, my story is, I think, a very typical one in that exactly what you described. My children had left the house and were pursuing the lives of their own. And even though I had worked, I felt myself really thinking, what now? That stage of life was kind of behind us, and I had checked all the boxes, if you will. I had a career. I also was able to stay home and raise my family. And yet, it wasn't as fulfilling as sometimes we set out thinking it's going to be. And so when you find yourself in this place, you often can know that it's really just a new territory, and it can feel pretty daunting, but it's happening for us. And kind of looking at it as something that's happening for us is really a good thing. So I felt like I was swimming upstream a little bit and not really sure, kind of drowning and not really sure what was next. And that's when I really paused to take a step back and to evaluate my life and really figure out some of the things that were going on at that time. And then to figure out what I really wanted the next half of my life to look like.
Yeah, and I know that that's something that, that's an audience that you are particularly focused on is helping women. So how do you help women discover their purpose and meaning as they're transitioning into their 50s and beyond?
Yeah, each woman is different, and so as we're navigating this life purpose thing, some people have always known what their purpose is, and others feel like it's been elusive, and then others really feel like it's just changed after the children leave home or after you've achieved a certain amount of success in your career. So there's different levels of knowing what your purpose is. And so if you're one of those people who feel like you've known what your purpose is in the first half of your life, then we can kind of continue to build on that and think about how we're going to shift from what you've been doing to something that might be more meaningful or exciting to you, and we can see what skills and interests are transferable. And then for other women who might feel like they don't know what their purpose is and they've never really understood why they were here or what is meaningful to them, we do a lot of exploratory,
Mhm.
because we are not our roles and we are not our titles. We're all individuals, and we're continuing to evolve as well through these different stages of life. And so things change. What might have interested us in our 20s is no longer the case now that we're in our 50s. And so we can do some exploring about what really lights you up and what has been maybe something that's even been on the back burner. I think as women, we are always geared towards loving and serving others. And that is a purpose in and of itself. But when we really start to dig deeper, we can find something that's more specific to each person and each woman that will help be the compass, if you will, for creating what the next half of their life looks like.
Yeah, I see it a lot when I'm working with my clients. So a lot of women come to me when they're about 10 years or so from retirement, oftentimes when they find themselves as empty nesters and the question they're saying to themselves is, well, I did all this, now what? So I really appreciate that that's something you help address. Can you talk a little bit about how you address the emotional aspects and how relationships can change.
Yes, I love helping women over 50 really realize how amazing this season of our life is, because we often have to debunk all of the cultural messages that we're bombarded with.
Oh, yeah.
And those are the you're too old and it's too late and you're no longer attractive. So many cultural messages that we face as women. And so, after years of putting everybody else first, because that's what we kind of do as women, and especially if we're moms, it can be really difficult for women to prioritize themselves and carving out that time to not only pursue like old hobbies or new interests, but also just to remember who we are as individuals and what we need in relationships. And even if it's our spouse and we've been married for 25 or 30 years, there's still a changing dynamic as we continue to age and what that relationship looks like. And so, working with women and looking at maybe where they're expressing their needs or not expressing their needs, where they're setting boundaries or maybe not setting boundaries. Those are some of the ways that I work with women. And I have a current client right now that is in this exact situation where she wants to come home from work and be able to work out because there's not really any kids at the house any longer. And so she has this hour before dinner, right, that is she can just have for herself. But her partner also gets home at the same time and wants to talk about dinner plans or wants to talk about the day. And it can be really hard sometimes as women to not put ourselves first. And so we really work on doing that and practice setting that boundary and being able to say simple things like, you know what, I'll be done with my workout in like 30 minutes and we can discuss that and I won't be as distracted. Uh, Sometimes that's easy for women, and sometimes that can be really difficult for women. So, really focusing on our own emotional needs and recognizing them and then implementing them so that we can really thrive in this next phase. And that's what I love about this age is it kind of becomes like your 20s again, where you can really focus on what do you want to bring in your 60s and 70s. And that can be really fun once we kind of address some of the emotional needs and some of the mindsets. And it can be hard to shift, but the good news is that we usually find ways to communicate expectations for ourselves and others. And I see many clients that become really excited about creating new careers and starting businesses and dreaming about what they want to still do in life.
Definitely. Yeah, and something that I see with my clients is when they're thinking about retirement, they're not thinking about a traditional retirement as in they're done working. What I see more often, especially with women, is that they're ready to try something new, just like you've done. So, um, how do you kind of assist women in preparing for retirement, whatever that might be, and finding fulfillment, perhaps in a new career or different type of work?
Yeah, a lot of retirement, aside from like the financial work that you do, Michelle, does center around what our values are and what we think our purpose is and what we want that next chapter to look like. And so I do see a wide range of women with different desires. And some people do want to retire early in their 50s and they have this vision of traveling and doing a lot of things. But then some people feel like I'm going to work into my 70s, whether it's for financial reasons or just again, because they know that they feel better about themselves working. They feel like they're have a calling on their life still, even though they might quit the traditional job, that there's still some work that they want to be doing. And so a lot of planning for retirement is really having something to retire to
Mhm.
and thinking about what that looks like for you, because it's really easy to say you're going to travel, you're going to play golf, and that works for a couple of years for some people. But I've known women that did that. They enjoyed a year or two off, and then they really found themselves going, you know, I'm only 58 and I could live to be 88. That's 30 more years. Am I really going to golf for 30 more years? Am I really going to be traveling for 30 more years? You know, this is the perfect time again to really figure out what kind of legacy you want to leave, what kind of purpose you can serve now and still have significance, even though you might be formally retired. And
Mhm.
so it's really fun to just have a plan to kind of stop for a minute, think about what that looks like, and create a plan for yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And you're absolutely right. That those are words that really speak to me because when I'm asking clients what an average day in retirement looks like, the standard answers are golfing or tennis or pickleball or travel, and that's great. But what about all the other hours, days, and months that you're suddenly faced with? So
Yes, exactly. We're all living longer. So retiring at 60 is pretty young.
it is, yeah. And again, maybe it's for financial reasons, but most often I see people wanting to continue to do some sort of work in their
Yeah.
50s and definitely beyond. So something I see a lot, I'm curious if you see this too, is women that worked in a certain career field will become coaches like you did, or consultants where they're doing similar work that they've always done, but they're doing it on their own terms with with a lot of flexibility.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And I feel so fortunate that we live in this day and age where we can do that. And I feel very fortunate about the generation before me, even that has set great examples for all of us women to be able to think outside the box and take the skills and the gifts that we've had all these years and to transfer them into something new. And a lot of women are able to do that. Some women kind of feel a little boxed in and kind of are still asking that now what, like like you've said that you see as well. And so, really, just helping people dream again and create that vision. And I do see, I've had several clients that actually do start a side business. And sometimes they catch themselves early enough, which is great about the 50s, is that if you can see that coming, you can start now. And so, this is what one woman who I just finished up coaching with did is she created a business. She's still working, but she's created a little bit of a side hustle for herself for retirement for that exact reason, because she knows that she wants something that can be flexible, something that will still bring in a little bit of cash flow, and it's using her skills and expertise that she's been in doing for 30 years. And
Wow.
so just taking a moment to focus and pause and think about your future can be so valuable, not only from the financial perspective, like with what you're doing, but just again, what do we want our life to look like in this next chapter?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that the folks that don't do that and they just expect that they're going to figure it out. I've met with a lot of people that feel a little lost at that phase. So
Yes.
it makes a lot of sense to me that you might want to talk to somebody and work with
Yeah.
somebody yourself to figure out what that is.
Yeah.
Especially,
And I think it's a little counterintuitive because I think sometimes we feel like we should have it all together. But let's face it, we have not been at this age and this stage ever before. It's like any stage of our life. We've never, when you're 16 and you're learning to drive, when you end up getting married, when you end up having kids, it's like we haven't been here. We haven't done this before. So,
right.
realizing that it's okay to seek some help and get questions or have your questions answered and explore and take time out to do all of that seems a little like counterintuitive, and I'm an adult and I'm 60 years old or 55 or 75 and I should have
Mhm.
this down, but we haven't been there before. So we need to realize that it's okay at any stage and any age to have some support.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more. So that's, big reason that I really wanted to chat with you because I think it's so important at any stage in life, but especially such a big change as middle age and beyond, to make sure that you understand what your life's purpose is as you're
Yes.
entering a new chapter in life. So definitely some similar vibes there, Linda. So
Well, thanks for having me, Michelle. This is
of
great. And
course.
I love the work that you're doing as well, with women who are, female headed households and income earners, because that's a huge need for women as well, just the whole financial side of this. So,
Yeah, definitely. And really when you're talking finances, you can't get away from also talking about life purpose and what helps you feel fulfilled, because money isn't enough for people. There's a lot more that goes with it. So if there's anybody watching who would like to chat with you, can you talk a little bit about your coaching process and how they can find you?
Yeah, they can find me in a couple different places. Of course, my website is just my name. It's www.lindagalambos.com. So you can always see a little bit more about what coaching is. And I have a blog on there, so you can check that out. I'm also on LinkedIn under the same name, and even on Instagram. It's all just my name, Linda Galambos. So you can reach me at any of those places.
Great. I'll go ahead and link to that information. And then if you'd like to learn even more about Linda, you can take a look at my blog, which can be found at www.lifestoryfp.com/blog. Thanks again, Linda. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michelle.